we are here for our bonus episode to the Cine-Men movie podcast. I am here, Johnny, alongside with
Edward.
And it is the episode that defines what this podcast has been. This is our last horror, scary movie, frightening episode of the season, and it is all about The Evil Dead 1981. Edward, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Not too bad at all. How about yourself?
Not too bad. It has been a wild, busy weekend with us finishing up Halloween 2018. Hope everybody is doing okay. We are coming to you from the southern parts of Oklahoma City. Evil Dead is all about what today's episode has been, and it has been a wild and crazy 8 weeks. We want to thank everybody who has been right there sponsoring us, following us, liking us, sharing all of our stuff.
Definitely.
It is all about you guys, and we've had a blast every single day doing it. We just want to thank everybody who has followed us on that Facebook page. Facebook search Movie Reels 405. You can listen to this episode and all of our archives on Podbean, YouTube, and Spotify. We are available pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts.
Basically, and just shouting out everybody who actually participated in this poll, who came up, voted, and said their little commented piece. We appreciate that. We appreciate the interactiveness.
Truly.
Definitely, because I mean, it was almost a tie. It was 7-6 on this one, in between Evil Dead, which we are doing right now, and Nightmare Before Christmas. So one vote, and it would have been a tie. But Evil Dead eventually did get the winning hand, I guess you could say.
That's true. We want to thank everybody who has been there, who participated in this poll. We also had a giveaway this past weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So for those of you who participated in that and tried to win Hotel Transylvania 3 on 4K digital movie copy, everybody who participated, thank you. But let's give a big shout out to the winner. Cynthia is the one who walked away with that digital copy. So let's talk about last week's episode. Last week's episode was all about Halloween 2018.
Yep.
And man, what kind of reviews, what kind of praise did you hear about the podcast last week? Did you enjoy the podcast?
I did. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was nice, especially with the lack of information that there is out there for that.
Now there's tons of information about it.
Yeah, because we literally gone and watched it, came back, turned around, and pretty much just gathered a little info on some of the actors and went to town from there. So, I mean, with the lack of information out there for the entire movie, I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. I did. And on top of that, I think it's kind of a little nice change of pace, if you will, to do a brand new movie out. Because you can do a lot on the, I guess you could say, history of the movie, but you can't do much on the brand new, fresh from the press, if you will, movie, for that matter. But what was your take on it?
Man, I've gotten a ton of likes, shares, and messages about Halloween 2018.
Definitely.
I have a lot of family in Texas, and everybody that listens to us in Texas, I have a couple family members in Texas who likes us and listens to us on Spotify, and they went and saw the movie, and they thought it was tremendous. Everybody is in love with this movie. Halloween has got the biggest box office in slasher film horror history.
Now, how much?
$77 million opening weekend.
That's a lot of leaves they raked in right there.
A lot of leaves.
There was certainly more leaves in this movie than the last. So,
if you haven't went out and seen it, we strongly suggest go see Halloween 2018.
Oh yes.
And speaking of things that we've watched, Ed, what's some of your recent watches over the past few days, over the past week?
Actually caught Scream 2 and 3. Well, 1 as well, but newer watches. Scream 2 and 3 as well as Hocus Pocus, and then Nightmare Before Christmas.
Good classics to watch around this time of year.
Always like them.
Well, obviously we watched Halloween 2018 for me, and then to do a little research for this movie, Evil Dead, I did watch the remake from 2013.
There you go.
The Evil Dead from that one, which we will compare the two in the episode. We will also go over a lot of info, which we now have a new segment called Did You Know?
Yep.
So we will go ahead and talk about that later on in the show. But for right now, let's get to and touch on some movie news.
All right.
So we open up with movie news that we just touched on a little bit ago. Halloween had a $77 million opening weekend.
Man.
Over the weekend, second place is A Star is Born with $19 million.
Not bad.
Venom is right there at number 3 with an $18 million weekend.
Second weekend.
And then Goosebumps is at $9 million. In other news, which is pretty big right now.
Guillermo del Toro.
If you don't know who that is, he's the director of Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy 1 and 2,
Oh, yeah.
Blade 2, also directed the Oscar-winning film The Shape of Water. He is doing a stop-motion film about Pinocchio, and it is signed exclusively to Netflix. So at first it wasn't going to happen, but now they put the gas
Green light.
Yeah, the green lights on there, and they are going to go in full swing with that.
That's pretty cool. That'll be interesting to see a stop motion capture of it, basically.
Yeah, there's already some jokes on the internet going around if it's going to be a dirty Pinocchio movie or not.
Yeah.
We will see.
A Polka Pinocchio movie.
Also, Top Gun 2 has found its composer, and they are doing. They have found Hans Zimmer is going to do the score for Top Gun 2. If you don't know who Hans Zimmer is, he has done films like The Dark Knight,
Okay.
Batman vs. Superman, Man of Steel. So he's a very good composer, very good for his time. They are also going to go ahead and do the original composer is also going to do some scores for this film as well.
Okay, kind of a John Carpenter 2018 Halloween kind of deal. Bring it back. That's cool.
Top Gun 2 hits theaters at the latest. It did get pushed back, so it will probably be a 2020 release. What are your thoughts on some are you excited? Have you seen Top Gun, the original movie?
I have not. I don't really...
We are looking for a new co-host. No, I'm just messing with you.
I truthfully don't really get into many Tom Cruise movies. Like, the Mission Impossible kind of make me sick. I'm just like, it's... Yeah, no.
Send your resume to Movies 405.
No.
Also, in other news, and this will be one of the later ones that we'll touch up on, Brett Cullen, the American Camera Electric Development guy, is going to be playing Thomas Wayne in the new Joker movie.
So okay.
So it seems pretty interesting where this story might go. What are they going to touch on as far as the Joker movie goes? Other than that, we're still talking about some of the Avengers 4 title.
Oh man.
If anybody out there maybe want to do some fantasy booking with us, what do you think that this is going to be?
I mean, honestly, I've seen and heard of leaks called Annihilation, but other than that, I have not heard much. I mean, Avengers, they try and keep top secret, so it's about like Area 51, but we actually are going to see Avengers someday. Yeah.
Avengers 4 hits theaters in May of 2019. I'm excited for this movie.
Definitely, because honestly, I think every Marvel fan, even I've heard people who don't really like Marvel are still really excited just because of what happened in the last one, and to see the continuation or the build-up of the climax of this, I guess you could say, to see where it all comes to a head and ends, for that matter, or does it continue much?
Also, winter is coming up. We have some good movies hitting theaters this winter. How excited are you for Aquaman?
Oh man, it'll be kind of cool to see Jason Momoa take on that role centrally, for that matter.
The only thing I'm worried about right now in the DC universe is Aquaman's coming up, Wonder Woman 1985, but Batman, Superman have a huge question mark on them.
True.
And Justice League 2. What are you going to do with no Batman, no Superman? And if you do have a Batman and Superman, why has something not been announced?
Right, because, I mean, honestly, just, it's kind of a detrimental thing, because literally you've got to get both of those characters right, and it has to kind of seem, I mean, I don't know what angle they're going for, but it's got to be like a seamless transition from Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck to the new actors. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not that Henry Cavill's Superman was the best ever, it's not that, like, you know, Ben Affleck's Batman was just so unforgettable. It's not stuff like that. It's just, you know, to keep the continuation of the actual series, you've got to have some seamless transition to actually make a good
I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that a lot of these DC fans could be some of the blame for these two actors leaving because of all the backlash. I mean, you got Zack Snyder out of there. He's no longer a part of it. Now Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill. I mean, how much do you guys want? It cannot be Marvel. I mean, you cannot keep comparing these two franchises.
It's apples to oranges.
Exactly. I don't know how much longer DC can actually last with doing this. I mean,
some of the big backlash.
Exactly. Man of Steel came out in 2008. 2009, and now here we are almost 10 years later, and it's a fucking mess.
Because, I mean, I've heard, like, the Titans, the new series Titans, I've heard the first episode was but I've heard the second episode was pretty good. Like, people are giving it like an 8.5 out of 10 or something like that.
And then you have James Gunn is going to do Suicide Squad 2.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with, you know, where is this going with the Joker movie? Two different universes. It's looking like DC is just all scrambled eggs right now.
All over the map.
You have 3 or 4 universes going on, and people are just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, then you've got Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and it's kind of going, is this tying into Suicide Squad? Is this tying into, you know, the not the Avengers, you know, Justice League? Is this tying into fucking what? For that matter. So
we will definitely do some more digging in our episode in November that has all to do with DC movies and the Justice League. That will be a more in-depth discussion, interviews. We might possibly have some call-ins on that episode. So it's definitely going to be a lengthy, long episode, and we're definitely going to dissect the DC universe in that episode. So we won't give too much thought about it right now. Before we get into the top 5, we also want to thank, I touched bases on it earlier, thank Cynthia for being a part of the giveaway, winning our first giveaway. Like I said earlier, she won Hotel Transylvania 3 HD 4K copy. This is the kind of stuff we're giving away. All you have to do is like, share, comment. That's all you got to do.
Boom. Keep
an eye on those posts. My next giveaway is the ET 4K digital copy, and we will be giving it out in time, just in time for Steven Spielberg's Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So Indiana Jones week, the week of November 2nd, I will be giving out ET digital copy. So now let's get ready to introduce something that we like to call the top 5. The top 5 is in, and it is everything about possession movies. We are covering The Evil Dead today, so if you know The Evil Dead, if you've seen The Evil Dead, I mean, hell, they only have a musical, a hit TV series, a remake, a trilogy, so Evil Dead is definitely one of those
cemented in franchises.
It's popular.
Yeah.
It's really, really popular. And we will go with Edward. Your top 5 is in, and we did our top 5 possession movies. So if you'd like to go ahead and start off with your number 5 and work your way to your number 1.
Number 5, I'd give to The Conjuring. I enjoy that movie. I think it's really kind of a cool aspect. Creepy. Just creepy, for that matter.
The cast was good, too. It was a good movie.
Not too bad at all. Season of the Witch. This is the Nicolas Cage Season of the Witch. Not a great movie, but it's kind of one I enjoy.
Ron Perlman's in that, too, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, both of those characters were enjoyable. I thought the dialogue was pretty good. I thought, just the acting was good in itself. Like I said, not a great movie, but I enjoy it. The Right.
Right, but let me cut you off right quick.
Okay.
Our top 5 is always not what is best for you guys.
Right.
Or is not something that maybe you think that is in your top 5, but this is just something that is in our top 5 or a movie we like. And like we said at the start and the beginning of this podcast with the first episode, Psycho, we do not trash movies here. We do not say that, we might have an opinion on these movies, but this podcast is really just something for you to listen to maybe get a little bit of an open mind as far as other movies go. And you can also say that, something that we might like or dislike maybe could change your opinion on it.
Definitely.
So with his number 4 possession movie on his list, the Season of the Witch,
maybe give it another watch, and
that might, maybe you've never heard of it, and that might give you a feeling of maybe go check it out.
Definitely, because that was like Primal Rage. Flipping through channels last week and happened upon it. Not a great movie, but it was one that definitely can touch some nerves. That's for sure.
Didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and go in with your.
So number 3, moving on to that, is The Right. That one is just great imagery. You can tell they took time with the CG effects. You can tell that they actually put effort into the story. Great acting. Anthony Hopkins leads the cast as the preacher, basically. And yeah, that definitely, if you're into possession or haunting or whatever movies, if you're into possession or haunting movies, that's definitely one just to give a consideration of a watch, because it's pretty dang good. Very, very creepy. Very good imagery. Number 2, I'd have to say The Haunting in Connecticut. Why? Is just because, honestly, maybe not the scariest thing I've ever seen, but definitely left some images in my head. That one was, especially with the box with the eyelashes in. Ooh.
It's a good movie.
Or eyelids. Sorry, it was eyelids in that. That was creepy. It's weird. And of course, number 1, and probably my favorite possession movie of all time, probably a lot of people's favorite possession movie of all time, the 1973 Exorcist. You can't get better than The Exorcist. Cult classic nonetheless, and pretty much one of, in my opinion, the best ones around. Literally. Honestly, I ain't got anything wrong with that one.
Rounding at the bottom of my top 5 is going to be the first Insidious movie.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much and a lot of these horror movies for me, the score, the way Insidious opened with the music in the movie, the cast. Insidious was just scary. It was freaky, and it was mostly because of that score. You take that score out, that movie is
kind of Yeah. No, that's the same thing that a critic said about Halloween, the original Halloween. She said that's the most bland movie I've ever seen, and then he put that John Carpenter put in the actual score, and she's like, "Oh my god, that was scary."
Right.
So
rounding out my number 4 is going to be The Conjuring 2. So I'm right there with you in the Conjuring universe. Just Conjuring 2 to me delivered a little bit more jump scares. The soundtrack was a little bit more deeper, and to me the story was way more fascinating than the first one.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I enjoyed Conjuring 2 a little bit more, my opinion.
It's kind of one of those sequels that not truly outdoes the original, but it definitely builds on a lot of a decent foundation.
Number 3 is the movie that we're covering today, Evil Dead. It's corny, it's cheesy, it's bloody, and it has everything that a 80s horror movie needs. I mean, you go through some of the horror movies that came out that year, Friday the 13th Part 2, Halloween 2. You can tell a 1980s horror movie from any other movie.
Very well. Kind of a nice steak, a raw steak with some cheese on there, a little corn on the side, something.
I think we better stick to potatoes.
Well, you know.
Number 2 for me is going to be the first and the original Amityville horror movie with none other than James Brolin. Josh Brolin's father is in this movie. And it's different. It's creepy. It almost has that Shining-esque feel to it. So the Amityville horror is just something that I visit every year. And it's definitely right there on the top of my list. And it would quite frankly be number 1 if it wasn't for this movie called The Exorcist. I'm right there with you. That rounds up my top 5. The Exorcist is number 1 for me. A lot of people don't like it. I mean, a lot of people, yes, I said don't like it because it is a little bit long. It does drag. Some of the scenes are a little too graphic.
A little bit.
But I own it. I enjoy it. I have the entire Exorcist box set. So I enjoyed all of them.
Truthfully, I want to give one honorable mention, though, and that would probably be Paranormal Activity for me, just because I liked it. I thought it was a great movie, great little, kind of a Blair Witch style of the filming, so definitely kind of revolutionized a little bit of the horror genre, because a lot of them have taken, or not horror, but like the paranormal genre, because a lot of them have taken, even, like Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters or stuff like that, has taken that own body cam kind of feel to it, and now made it pretty mainstream for that matter. So definitely like that. I
did enjoy the first Paranormal. Everything after that was just kind of almost the exact same thing,
but just a couple little different things to it. But yeah, it's the first one was good, but the other 3 I think have been kind of weird. Yeah.
So, and that leads us in what we're going to talk about today, and that is Sam Raimi's original, the classic Evil Dead.
Dark shadows moving in the woods, and I have no doubt that whatever I have resurrected through this book is sure to come calling for me. I know now that my wife has become close to a Kandarian demon. I fear that the only way to stop those possessed by the spirits of the book is through the act of bodily dismemberment.
We're gonna get you, not another piece. Kinda gonna see, queen.
So that is what we're getting into today. Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. And why does that name sound familiar? Because Sam Raimi, he does a lot of trilogies, and you might know him for, probably everybody most famously knows him for the Spider-Man trilogy.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, for that matter.
I think that's the only Spider-Man trilogy out there.
Well, you never know. Some people might be, like Andrew Garfield? No. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
So he's known good for Spider-Man. He's done Darkman. He's done Drag Me to Hell, Oz the Great and Powerful. And then he's done the Evil Dead trilogy. Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. Before that, he really wasn't famous. He did some short movies and short films and really broke in good with Evil Dead.
So you could kind of say Evil Dead was like his boomstick, basically.
It was his, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ash's boomstick was, his gun attached to his stub, and his boomstick is this movie, so boom.
So, I mean, Evil Dead, we're going to touch bases that, it is corny, it is cheesy. I don't know if it was meant to be that way. It is rated NC-17. It does have, a lot of blood and, gore for this movie.
Bit, yeah.
For it being a 1981 movie. So, I mean, the cast stars really a non,
just unknowns, basically.
Pretty much. I mean, you have Bruce Campbell as Ashley. You have Ellen Sandwich as Cheryl. Betsy Baker as Linda. And then Teresa Tilly as Shelley. I mean, there's only 5 people in this movie.
Yeah.
4 of the 5 die. 4 of the 5 get possessed. And let's talk about the character as it is now. And that's almost, he's pretty much lived on. He's a hero in this universe, and that is Ash. He was in Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. He goes to their world in that movie. And then he's in Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Again, that's something that I haven't personally checked out because of it being on Stars. I did hear that it did get canceled.
Yeah.
So now that the first 3 are out, that's something I'm definitely going to check out. So, also Bruce Campbell, the actor, pretty much goes and touch bases on everything that Sam Raimi does. He was in Spider-Man as the ring announcer.
Yep.
He had cameos in Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. He does a lot of voiceover work. So let's get some, a little segment that we're getting into now called Did You Know? The movie made $2.4 million.
So not too much, but I mean, when you consider the budget, basically, it didn't do bad.
With a $350,000 budget, it did do $2.4 million at the box office, $27 million internationally, and then $29 million worldwide.
So not too bad. Definitely, for the budget, definitely not too bad. It definitely made a lot more than its money back, so it definitely got a lot of profit, but I don't think he really expected it to go huge.
This is almost like another one of those movies like we covered, like Killer Clowns.
Yeah, basically a little cult following that they didn't really expect to do much.
But the following happened 30 years after the movie came out.
Basically.
So, this movie is more famous now, I believe, than it was in 1982. A year after it came out.
I've always heard of Ash and the Evil Dead for that matter. But I mean, I thought it was literally Ash and the Evil Dead, or Ash versus the Evil Dead, not just the Evil Dead. And then when I found that out when I was a little older, I was like, oh, okay. So
I mean,
funny.
Ed's going to look up right quick some of the other movies that came out in 1981. We'll touch bases on that, sort of maybe some competition around the box office around that time in that year. I know Halloween 2 was one.
American
as well
Werewolf
as,
in London. That's not
Time Bandits as well is one. And you said American Werewolf in London?
Yeah.
The first time I seen that movie, I was like 8. That movie scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's been one of my favorites for quite a while, to be honest. That and American Werewolf in Paris is another one that I really like. Chariots of Fire with Hugh Hudson and Ben Cross. There's
Oscar winner.
One. Clash of the Titans, another one. There's been quite a few, honestly.
So 1981 definitely had its share of good movies. Friday the 13th Part 2, Escape from New York, John Carpenter, Kurt Russell. So John Carpenter was pretty busy from 78 to 82.
That's definitely.
Also, it's nice to mention that this movie was filmed on location in Detroit, Michigan, and was actually filmed in an abandoned cabin.
I've noticed that kind of with a lot of the different, I'd say the different films that we've done so far. There's been, Halloween, the Myers house was actually an abandoned house. So there's been a few different ones that have been abandoned, for that matter, just that they've just used. Thought it was kind of funny. Oh, The Howling as well came out, directed by Joe Dante, starring Dee Wallace and Patrick McNee. So there's another one.
But this movie came out in October 15th, 1981. It's funny, if you've seen the movie, that cabin doesn't look very, very nice.
No, you can tell it's not really abandoned, but you can tell it hasn't been used or really been decorated much at all. It looks kind of like a guy just uses that as a hunting cabin for every, a week out of the year, and then just leaves it to die for the rest of the year.
Yeah, no doubt. This is definitely... first off, let's get down to breaking down some of the movie. This is going to be a very long episode. Again, this is just our bonus episode that we are throwing out there. We asked you guys to be more interactive and be more hypergenic, if you will, about this podcast.
And you came through. You produced.
So the more productive you are, the more interaction we get. We'll throw out more content.
Definitely, and we'll include a bonus show every now and then.
We'll try to do a bonus show once a month, but again, we can only do that if you guys participate in some of the stuff we share. We're going to break down this movie, but first thoughts, Edward. This is the first time that you've seen this movie. We will save our star rating for the end of the podcast. But for right now, what are your thoughts on, first off, when the movie started and you see all 5 friends in the car and the opening is there, before you see any kind of possession or zombie-like creatures, what are your first thoughts when this movie comes up?
Truthfully,
what were you expecting going in?
More of a zombie type movie, because that's what I thought it was at first, was zombies. I didn't think it was like a possession movie. I thought it was zombies. So I was kind of expecting that to happen. It had kind of a Texas Chainsaw-esque feel to it. 5 people heading out on the road and come into some abandoned cabin, kind of the same thing with that, except for car versus van, so whatever. But it's not bad. Definitely cheesy. Definitely cheesy. A little overdone on the gore in my thoughts, and then the end.
And we'll get ready to touch on that, some of the scenes that he's talking about here in just a second. But overall thoughts going into it. Is it one of those movies where
I could definitely watch it again?
Is it one of those movies where you used our rule and kind of went in with an open mind, or?
Yeah, definitely. Because I always try and give a movie a chance. I actually got some feedback on Halloween after we done the actual little Facebook Live video saying, well, I've heard mixed reviews on it. And I'm just like, but the thing is you got to go in and say, look, it's a fresh movie. It's a different take. It's by the original man. So you've got to give a little bit of credit to him. You've got to. But I thought the 2018 Halloween was great. Just because of a lot of different things. Had comedy, we explained that in our last podcast.
If you want to know more about Halloween 2018, it's in the archives. We're on Spotify, on Facebook. Facebook search Movie Reels 405, and you can hear all of our episodes right there in the archives on YouTube, Spotify, and Podbean.
Definitely. But, for this one, I tried to go in open-minded as possible and just kind of take it for what it is. Simple as that, or for what I perceive it as. And it was a nice little, I'd say, difference that it wasn't a zombie movie. So that was kind of a cool, already switched up my thoughts about it right there. And it just, some of it was very good, some of it was very detailed, and you could see where he started his camera work. I could see even similarities in the camera panning and angles and all that from that to like the Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 for that matter, and even Drag Me to Hell, because I don't mind that one at all. I like that one.
Drag Me to Hell kind of has that corny-esque feel to where you could be looking at a dark comedy.
Yeah.
So,
but because that one just a whole different story. But I didn't mind it. I liked it. It wasn't bad.
To me, this is one of those movies that I enjoy. I enjoy the whole trilogy. The only one that I can kind of do without is the Army of Darkness because it is way over the top. But it's still something I enjoy. The Evil Dead, the way it opens up with the 5 friends going to the cabin and kind of getting away, and the forest and the demon just possesses Ash's, well, you think is Ash's girlfriend, but she's really
one of the friends, kind of the
Sherry.
fifth wheel.
Yeah, so she gets possessed, and first off, you can't help but not kind of smirk at the way the forest is kind of taking her apart.
Yeah.
If you've seen the remake, you know that the remake is about 5 friends as well, but one of the girls is having drug problems, and they go to this deserted cabin as almost like a intervention to try to help her get clean.
There you go.
The remake, the 2013 remake of Evil Dead, first off is Evil Dead. This one is The Evil Dead. There's a difference. And the remake is just completely not corny, not cheesy at all. It is dark, it is gruesome, it is very, very cruel, and just pretty evil.
She probably gets over a drug habit, though.
Oh, pretty much. We touched on this earlier in the episode as far as some of our possession movies. You know, you have The Exorcist, you have The Conjuring, and almost now, in today's horror, that's pretty much what all these horror movies coming out lately are.
Yeah.
Is possession movies.
I mean, The Nun, basically it wasn't a possession movie per se, but it was a per se possession movie.
You hardly get any more of those. It's just, in the 80s, I guess it was so about slasher guys and those kind of movies, but now you don't really get that much anymore, and I think that's maybe why Halloween was so successful.
Definitely.
At the box office.
Plus, I mean, it's already going to be a little bit successful with the name itself, for that matter. But yeah, maybe people are wanting, I don't know, to have that recultivated and maybe put into a new character as well. Because I mean, with Scream, it kind of brought it to the mid '90s, and that was a great thing. And now, we all know what Scream is. You can't walk into a Halloween store and turn left and go over to the horror costume section and not see Ghostface and think exactly of what happened. So I mean, there's that. But I would love to see a new character come out. Some random killer, whatever.
They even remade The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and that movie was really, really good for its time, which I believe was a remake of 2014. But we're going to continue to talk about The Evil Dead. One thing I didn't like about The Evil Dead was all these horror movies we've done have had great soundtracks.
Yeah.
This soundtrack, to me, the score, the music really wasn't there. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. It had its bumps in the time, but I think that might have been due to maybe the stereo system we were watching it on.
Possible.
But to me, the soundtrack just didn't get me. That's one. If there's any negative I have about this movie, it is about the soundtrack. The soundtrack to the remake was unbelievable, but to this one, it was a little bit different.
And I'm pretty sure there was a hell of a different budget for the remake too.
That's true.
For that matter.
The version that we did watch of The Evil Dead was the new 4K copy that came out this week. For those of you that are 4K
aficionados
fans, it's out there. Walmart, $14.99. Go pick it up. It definitely looks a lot better than the Blu-ray releases. No film grain, crystal clear. Definitely check it out. It's worth the purchase. I cannot get past an episode without talking about Vudu. This movie is on Vudu. You can watch it on Prime Video for $5.99. You can rent it. It's on Movies Anywhere as well. The Evil Dead remake is actually on sale on Vudu. And the bundle is actually on sale as well. Evil Dead 1 and 2, you can get both of them in HD for only $9.99. So I use Vudu. I know everybody else out there uses Vudu. And go check it out. The Evil Dead is available now on Vudu, Amazon Prime, and wherever digital and movies are sold. So I would check out Evil Dead.
There you go.
Getting into some of these scenes that you were talking about, they are definitely gory. They're cheesy. What would probably be one of your favorite scenes? You know, this is your first time watch. What would probably be one of your favorite scenes about this movie?
Probably where his actual girlfriend went after she got possessed was just sitting there in the middle of the doorway, kind of like a child at Christmas time, but psychotically laughing. You know, just because that's a really creepy take on a simple thing. I mean, she's just sitting there laughing, and that's all she's doing. But the way the makeup is and how the actress is going about everything is just, it grabs you.
No,
honestly,
that's interesting because we talked about this during the movie. We talked about the makeup.
Yeah,
the makeup was on point. That's one of the best things about this movie is it's all handmade.
And I mean, whoever they needed to give him like
it's not
credit.
CGI. I mean, obviously it's not CGI. It's all handmade makeup for this movie, and that's honestly why I enjoyed it a lot. My favorite scene would probably be where Scott butched up and hacked up.
Okay. I think his girlfriend.
Shelly.
Shelly's
the one that got hacked up, and he just acts the fuck out of her.
Yeah,
and the camera actually goes and shows you all these body parts, and to me that was one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
It's kind of like the reverse of Oprah. You know, you get the chair. No, she got no arm, no leg, no head. He took everything.
Yeah, I mean, so touching bases on this movie, it's one of the better 1980 horror movies. But, I mean, a lot of people really didn't like it, maybe for the same fact that you didn't really like it. And that's because of you don't know if is it comedy, is it horror?
I mean, to me it was a little over the top just on some of the actual blood and gore. Because, I mean, like, when they were dying, in a sense, at one of the final scenes, you know, something, a claw or an arm or something like that came out of her stomach and just all kinds of blood all over his face, and then this guy's head exploded, or his skull like crushed down, and more blood all over his face.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot that can be said about this movie. I mean, it's Sam Raimi's classic. It's the one that put him on the map. I mean, not a lot more can be said about it. You know what kind of movie it is.
I definitely would watch it again, though. Like, I didn't dislike it. It's
just a low-budget zombie/possession horror flick, and possibly a perfect. What's the word I'm looking for? Possibly a perfect
kind of
example of how to make an entertaining low-budget movie.
Okay.
With that kind of budget to work with.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If you hate this movie, like legitly hate it, you cannot argue. Like you just said a minute ago, you cannot argue about the makeup. Whoever was doing that was just a master at their craft.
And I mean,
literally,
you touched on it earlier. There are several reasons this film succeeds, but one of the main reasons that you said it succeeded, his camera work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
it's truly masterful by using fast camera work, aggressive shots. I mean, he created almost this whole eerie world.
Yeah.
With how fast some of those camera shots are.
Because, I mean, it was kind of Halloween-esque of some of the camera shots, especially the panning angle when he gone around to the different rooms, you know, and then it stopped at, I forget her name, I forget her name at first, but the one that got locked in the basement, I forget her name, but when she was in a sweater, like brushing her hair, almost in a Judith Myers-esque way, you know what I mean? It was reminiscent of that. Maybe he was kind of pulling from that a little bit with inspiration. But it was kind of like that to me. And I like that whole one angle. You know, it goes from what I think is the living room to a different room. And I get what you're saying. This film is only like an hour and 20 minutes. The film itself, the way he shoots it, it almost makes it seem like some of these shots last an eternity. Yeah.
But the way the camera goes up, down, and around, I mean, truly, that's probably what stands out about this film.
Yeah,
those single, I mean, nobody's in the shot, but those single camera shots are just iconic for him in this movie.
Definitely, and with only 5 people to truly go on, and you can tell that they did all their own stunt work, all their own, you know, everything was those 5 actresses. Simple as that. Like, it wasn't 15 people playing 5 people. It was literally 5 playing 5. That's all it was. So, I mean, are the characters a little forgettable to me? A little bit, yeah. Unfortunately with that. I mean, Ash himself kind of pissed me off.
I mean, it's a little the corny 1980s way, but I mean...
But beginnings are beginnings, so I can't really down it that much.
And you're talking about when the bookcase fell on him, and multiple bookcases fell on him, and he just...
It seems like if you really want to kill Ash, all you have to do is put a few boards on the guy, and
they should have called
he's going to take 20 minutes.
The new TV series should have been called Ash versus the Bookcases.
No joke, because literally he's going to die. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know how he's beaten all these monsters over... Like, then again, I haven't seen much of it, so take it as it is, but it just seems like Wood is his ultimate demise, I guess you'd say, his ultimate enemy, for that matter. So just throw a bookcase on him, all you zombies, ghouls, ghosts, goblins, all that's attacked him. Throw a freaking bookcase on the guy.
Out of the 4 that were possessed, what was probably your favorite one that was possessed? Would it be the one that sat down like a little girl?
I've got to say probably the one in the basement, just because I had more time to experience. But yeah, a close second would be the girl that was just sitting down, just laughing frantically. But yeah, the one under the basement definitely, because, you know, we're gonna get, you know, all that was just
right. I mean, that's
creepy.
That's iconic for its time. They're one of the first.
And it's kind of like the Freddy rhyme, you know, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, and all that. That's kind of a thing that, if you can't remember much about the movie, that's one thing that you are going to take away. 100%.
I tell you, you can put this movie up against some of today's horror movies for me, and I'll pick this over some of those.
Right.
Day in and day out. This is just, I mean, it's not done like this anymore as far as makeup, as far as the camera shots. Everybody's worried about being criticized, which I don't blame them because of the way social media is out. But I mean, this movie is the lifeblood of Sam Raimi. It's the one that got him started. It's the one that just is out there.
Planted the seed for his roots to grow, basically. And he spawned a decent tree. He's got some decent branches of work out there. So definitely, you know, like I said, you can see his masterful adaptation of his camera work, for that matter. So that was awesome to see, to go from what he's done after this, and then to go back to this and see where he kind of made his big silver screen debut, if you will. It was kind of cool just to see that. So yeah, I've got to say I was very happy with that. The makeup was amazing. The acting here and there was pretty decent. There was some failed attempts, in my opinion, but other than that, not too bad. I'd watch it again, but it's not going to be one of my favorites.
Okay, speaking of favorites, let's get into our star rating. Since this wasn't one of your favorites, I'll let you go first.
Truthfully, hope nobody out there hates me, because I know an old manager of mine and some family members have voted for this, and sorry, don't take it too harshly.
We're taking new resumes at...
But 6.5, maybe a 7. Solid 6.5, but probably around 6.5, 7, somewhere in there.
So you're going to give it a 6 or a 6.5?
6.5, definitely 100%.
Okay. So
solid.
6 stars out of 7. 6.5. To me, I enjoy this movie. It's one of my favorites. It's a classic. It's The Evil Dead. They made a goddamn musical out of it. I'm just going to go with a solid 7. It's one of those that definitely deserves its praise for the makeup, for the camera shots, for the legendary status of Bruce Campbell being Ash. It doesn't get any bloodier or gruesome than this. For its time, it was definitely something that stood out. And to me, it still stands the test of time, just because it's one of those movies that simply, I mean, it can't be redone. They remade it in 2013, and if they made it trying to be cheesy, I mean, it definitely wasn't cheesy, and it definitely wasn't corny. So, I mean, both films are great, but to me, this one is always going to be just that classic possession / zombie kind of movie.
I mean, honestly, with me, if you took away the makeup, it'd probably be a 4.0, like, legitly. If you took away all the camera angles that, you know, gave it some of the feeling and the actual ambiance of the movie, I'd probably say even a 3 at that. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, that did, I think, work in its favor. If it had a better score, maybe a 7.5 even. I'm not saying it was a crappy score, but, you know, just like we said with Halloween, it went from to, oh my god, scary for a critic, literally just because of the movie, or music. And I mean, you've said it in different podcasts for that matter of ours.
All of them.
Score makes the horror genre.
And in all these movies we've done, if you've noticed, the movies we have picked, they've all had really, really good scores. This one, like I said, isn't terrible.
No.
But it just doesn't have that jump scare kind of feel to it. But, man, looking to all the episodes we've done, it's kind of sad to say that this is our last horror podcast.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, you know, getting away from the horror genre is, you know, which is one of our favorites, is going to kind of suck. But I'm looking forward to it in a way because, for one, I don't want to get too burned out on horror. For two, honestly, I want to see how we do with different genres of film and different types of films. So, I mean, I think we're going to do fine.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a different experience. These other movies it's going to be a different kind of challenge.
Yeah.
Because with horror movies, you can kind of feel the same. Every episode has almost got the same touch to it.
Right.
You can go off of one movie to the next and compare the two, to where these next movies that are coming up, I mean, you can't do that. Every single one of these movies are different.
Mm-hmm.
They're a different kind of genre. It's a different kind of story. It's a different kind of character. So, in essence, these movies coming up is technically, to me, I feel like they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna break us, but they're gonna. It's definitely gonna be a challenge.
See what our chops are instead of actually, you know, oh well, these guys kind of suck now. I guess horror is the only thing they can do. Matter of how can they do that? Because I mean, don't get me wrong, Indiana Jones, tons of stuff out on it. Goonies,
right. I mean, there's tons of stuff out on it, but I mean, the kind of review that you can get for Indiana Jones coming up is going to be, you know, who hasn't seen Indiana Jones? If there's somebody out there, they can't see you, raise your hand. It's a podcast. That's Facebook.com, search Movie Reels. We need a new co-host. I'm just messing with you. But for some of those who haven't seen Indiana Jones, you know, for you, an example, you said it really wasn't your cup of tea, but after we watch it, there might be somebody out there who doesn't really like it or has seen it and said they don't really want to see it again, but maybe this podcast will change your mind.
Maybe I can help change your mind being a first-time viewer of this series. So, you know, I can relate to people as in I've never seen it. You can relate to a lot of as you've seen it, because I know your dad loved Indiana Jones. I mean, legitly did. So there's that. But, I'm looking forward to it just to get my take, because I've heard several different things. I've seen a couple of clips here and there, a couple scenes, but I've just never watched the full thing. And it's not really that, it's not truly my cup of tea, but it's just like, I've just never taken the opportunity to see it, really.
Right.
That's about it.
Well, that's what this podcast is all about, man. We're going to try to get you guys to get into movies that you may not like or you may not have given a second shot, you know, after your first time watch. So, coming up is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, a look ahead, we have pretty much the year planned out. We will probably do a bonus show for the month of November, and we will let you guys probably vote on that. Do you want us to see, you know, depending on what the movie is, it may not be a movie in theaters, but we definitely will come up with maybe 4 movies like we did this one with Evil Dead.
Definitely.
And let you guys just vote on those 4 movies, and that movie will be the one that we get to cover. So, next, this is our last horror podcast. Next week, we're still continuing the podcast, but this is our last horror episode, and it can truthfully drop at any time between now, which is, as we record this, it is the 22nd of October, so it can drop any time between now and the 1st of November. Like I said, on the week of November 2nd, I will be giving out the ET digital copy. So Man, we before we end this episode, what's some of the what would probably say be your favorite movie that we've covered so far?
I'm going to take out Halloween just because that is one of my favorites of horror genre.
Well, let me put it this way. What is one of the ones that you, out of all the ones we've seen that you have never seen before this podcast, which one did you enjoy the most? So you didn't see, your first viewing of all these movies was Psycho.
Psycho, yeah.
It was your first time watching that. The Shining.
Right.
It was your first time watching that. And you said it was really, I don't know about Scream.
Scream, no, I've seen that a couple times. Just hadn't seen 2, 3, and I still haven't seen 4, but I hadn't seen 2 and 3 for ever.
Well, I mean, we can say out of Scream and pretty much everything but Halloween, then I guess, what would probably be your favorite movie out of all these?
Truthfully, Psycho. I mean, honestly, it'll always be kind of a special one since we did it first and foremost for that matter, but I've got to say I like that. I thought it was I can see why it stuck around for 60 years. I can see why it's still got a Headstrong, why it's already still got a series, why it's still got, a couple sequels and a remake, stuff like that. Just like this one, actually, for that matter. But to me, that one, Psycho, was just a bit more of a strong character foundation and a strong build, and it delved into psyche of the mind quite a bit more, but I think it was just a strong movie and a strong base to build a franchise on. So I've got to say Psycho.
That would be that'd be a good one to go for. So far, my favorite episode. I like them all. They've all really had a special meaning to me. But I'm gonna probably say the Scream episode and the film itself. That's one of the better ones that I feel like we've done. And man, I couldn't get this done. This never would have been a thing without you. You can't have a one-person podcast. If you do, you never know what it might be.
It's just going to be kind of a one-sided thing, and you won't have a differing of opinion to round out something, basically.
But man, this has been a very, very distinct pleasure. I've enjoyed viewing these movies with you, and I've enjoyed the bond and creating some of these reviews with you. But as far as this episode goes, this was our bonus episode, so you got one more horror movie in there after Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
But man, next week.
Oh.
Next week is all about the man, the myth, the legend, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. If that doesn't tell you what I'm excited about, the score, the plot, the ending, the entire movie itself, the action, the entire movie in itself is just completely fascinates me. And I know we're running a little bit long about this episode. It was only supposed to be a 45-minute episode, but I'm excited. A look ahead, we have November 2nd. We're going to cover Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, sir.
The Goonies will follow that. November the 9th. The Goonies. You seen The Goonies?
I've seen it, yeah. I have seen it, and it's kind of a funny tale, I think.
This is actually is going to be one of our first comedy-like movies.
Yeah, comedy-esque, yeah, definitely. So I am looking forward to that. I am definitely looking forward to those 8 Crazy Nights that Adam Sandler talks about.
We will cover that in December. But man, it all pretty much comes down to next week. Again, this podcast would not be how it is right now without you guys.
Definitely.
Facebook, search us. We are at facebook.com/moviereels, REELZ 405 at Facebook. You can find us on Podbean, is where we started. We have quite the following on Podbean. I'm surprised.
Yeah, not too bad, and it's not like it's just Oklahoma or even just a little bit of Texas or Kansas. We've got Virginia, New York, Pennsylvania, so We're actually, I mean, honestly, when we had 7 pop up in Virginia, I was
Now
like,
we
are you
have
serious?
37 in Virginia.
So, I mean, that's we see you all out there. We do understand and we do know that you're out there. So we deeply appreciate that, because we've got people here at home that, you know, friends and family that listen. And we appreciate that, definitely. But we do understand that we see y'all out there, all of y'all, whether you're in Boston, whether you're in Pennsylvania, or whatever.
We started on Podbean. We appreciate everybody on Podbean. We also have a YouTube page. If you need to find that YouTube page, you can find it at the Facebook site. Just click that Learn More button. It'll take you straight to the YouTube page. And then most recently, we're on Spotify. We have over 30 downloads and over 40 followers on Spotify. That number is slowly growing. Most of our downloads and views are now coming on Spotify because it is so easy to access. So we talked about Psycho, we talked about The Shining, Scream. You can find all those episodes in our archives right there on Spotify, YouTube, and Podbean. So, final thoughts. I mean, next week we have Rockstar Presents Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. November the 9th we have The Goonies. November 16th is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yes.
November 23rd is Creed. And November 30th is going to be one of my all-time favorite movies, Rocky. So out of those 4 movies right there, out of those 5 movies right there, which one of your favorite ones that you might cover?
I mean, honestly, Fantastic Beasts. I'm just a huge Harry Potter fan, so Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I'm definitely wondering what those bundling band of baboons are going to do. Little Easter egg for you Harry Potter fans, or Wizarding World fans for that matter. Say that 5 times fast. But yeah, I'm wondering what is next and how they're going to go with that. And on top of that, you know, revisiting Goonies will be pretty cool for me, I think. I like Goonies. Funny. It's funny.
I knew probably one of those was going to be... I probably knew that one was going to be your favorite that you might... Have you seen all the 4 that we're going to cover? You've seen Rocky?
I have not seen Creed nor Indiana Jones. So
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, honestly, Michael B. Jordan's a damn good actor. All from That Awkward Moment when I first seen him, and then, you know, growing to realize that he was actually in Hardball. So that was pretty cool. Seeing him as a kid, for that matter. And then going all the way to Black Panther and different movies that he's taken on, and even possible different roles, such as even Superman, that he is being propositioned to try to get him to play that role. So
no, definitely Creed.
Crazy.
Creed was brought up during Oscar season the year it came out. It is definitely one of the better boxing movies. Next week, don't forget Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is the first episode presented by Rockstar.
Yes, sir.
So, with that being said, we are able to Rockstar it out of here for this episode of The Evil Dead.
This is Edward signing out.
Don't forget, join us next week as the Cine-Men Movie Podcast present, alongside with Rockstar Energy Drink, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. We close the chapter on this horror genre. We appreciate everybody out there, and we can't wait to get started next week right here on the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.